It's kind of funny. Laughter, I mean. It's this completely universal thing that connects all of us, and comedy is the art form that's literally built around it. I mean, think about it. We've got everything from stand-up specials to those viral TikToks, but that basic need to find something to laugh at, that's as old as we are.
So let's really get into it. Where did this all start? To find the answer, we have to go back way, way back, all the way to ancient Greece, a time of epic poems, rowdy gods, and, you guessed it, the very first stages. Long before there were theaters, there were stories. And even in the most serious, epic poems, the Greeks just couldn't help themselves. They had to slip in a few good jokes, and they usually aimed them at the most powerful beings you could imagine, the gods themselves. So this quote is from Homer's Odyssey, and the scene is just classic. You've got the blacksmith god, Hephaestus, who catches his wife, Aphrodite, yep, the goddess of love, cheating on him with Ares, the god of war. So what does he do? He throws this invisible net over them and invites all the other gods to come and gawk. And while they're all standing there, one god leans over to another and says this. I mean, come on. It just proves that jokes about sex, power, and getting caught in a seriously embarrassing situation, yeah, those are timeless.
The word comedy itself actually gives us a massive clue about where it came from. It's from the Greek komodia. And if you break that down, you get komos, which means a revel or a party, and ode, which means song. So comedy was literally a party song. Just picture it. A wild festival, people parading through the streets, singing these songs that made fun of absolutely everyone. Politicians, your neighbors, people in the crowd. That right there is the chaotic, fun-loving root of all comedy. And get this, we have visual proof. Even before any script survived, artists were painting scenes from these early performances right onto their pottery. On vases, just like this one, you can see these figures dressed up in weird padded costumes, maybe pretending to be animals or birds. This is our first real peek at the comic chorus, which was a huge part of the very first comic plays.
Okay, so let's look at how this all evolved into the first official genre of comic drama. And it's probably not what you're thinking. After spending a whole day watching these heavy, super serious tragedies, the ancient Athenians needed a break, They needed something to lighten the mood. And that's where the satyrs came in.
The formula for a satyr play was simple but absolutely brilliant. You take a famous myth that everyone knew, and then you just drop a whole chorus of these rowdy, half-man, half-goat party animals right into the middle of it. They were mischievous, all they cared about was drinking and chasing nymphs, and they would just completely mess up the serious story for a bit before, everything got back on track in the end. It was the perfect chaser after a long day of drama.
And even the great tragic playwright Aeschylus wrote these. In one of his satyr plays, the Titan Prometheus doesn't give the amazing gift of fire to us thoughtful humans. Oh no. Instead, he gives it to a bunch of totally clueless satyrs who have no idea what to do with it.
You can just imagine the scene, right? One of these satyrs sees this incredible, bright new thing and immediately tries to kiss it. Or maybe even eat it. And Prometheus has to yell, "Watch it, old man, you'll singe your beard." It's total slapstick, a perfect example of how these plays just flipped mythology on its head for a good laugh.
But the satyr play was really just the warm-up act. As Athens hit its golden age, this new, way more complex, and much, much bolder form of comedy showed up. They called it old comedy, and believe me, it took no prisoners.
Old comedy was basically the anti-tragedy. Seriously, look at this. Where tragedy gave you noble heroes, comedy gave you low-class fools. Where tragedy had beautiful, sacred songs, comedy had rude, ridiculous ones. It took every single serious rule of the theater and just turned it completely upside down, on purpose.
And the settings were just as out there. Aristophanes, the most famous old comedy writer, set one of his plays in a city in the sky run by birds. Its name, Cloud Cuckoo Land. The costumes were insane, the plots were pure fantasy, and the humor was this amazing mix of sharp political commentary, total absurdity, and just plain old silliness.
But old comedy had another trick up its sleeve. It's something that feels so incredibly modern, and it might just be its most important legacy.
So, right in the middle of the play, everything would just stop. The chorus would take off their masks, walk to the front of the stage, and talk directly to the audience. This part was called the parabasis. They'd speak as the playwright himself, ripping on politicians, making fun of other poets. They'd even call out people sitting in the crowd. The whole point was to shatter the illusion.
So the next time you're watching a movie and a character turns to the camera and talks right to you, just remember that is not a new trick. The Greeks were breaking the fourth wall more than 2,000 years ago.
But, this kind of wild, no-holds-barred political comedy couldn't last forever. Big historical events, like wars and social change, forced comedy to evolve again. It had to shift its focus, from the state of the city to the state of the family.
And this progression is really fascinating to watch. After Athens lost a huge war, the money and, frankly, the mood for these big, expensive political takedowns just wasn't there anymore. So comedy went into this transitional middle phase, before coming out the other side as new comedy. And this new style, perfected by the playwright Menander, looked inward. It found its humor in the everyday lives of regular people.
Okay, wait a second. Does any of this sound familiar? The strict dad, the clever servant who's way smarter than his boss, the young couple who can't be together because of some silly misunderstanding? Yeah, these are the exact building blocks of new comedy. It was all about these stock characters and everyday family drama. It's less about big political statements and way more about relatable human stuff. This isn't just like a sitcom, this is the blueprint. It's the ancestor of literally every sitcom you've ever watched.
And with that big shift, the whole purpose of comedy changed too. It wasn't just about getting a huge, riotous laugh anymore. As this quote about Menander tells us, comedy became a way for us to kind of gently observe ourselves, to learn about human nature through these funny, flawed, and totally familiar characters on stage. The goal was more of a knowing chuckle of recognition, not just a big belly laugh. So, there you have it, the whole journey, from wild party songs that mocked the powerful, to these crazy political fantasies, and finally to the family comedies that hold a mirror up to our own lives. It's an incredible evolution, and it really makes you wonder, in our world of memes, algorithms, and AI, what's the next great leap for the art of making us laugh?